This is NDTV. And you're watching Ndtv-Hindu.
Hello and welcome to Headlines Now on Ndtv-Hindu. I'm Ramanathan and I will bring you all the latest news and updates and analysis.
A very good evening. I'm Sai Manish. The United States warned of it as back as April, and now the very man who is behind the German bakery blast in Pune has spilled the beans over Lashkar setting up bases in Colombo. I'll bring you more on that.
And I'm Salim. I'll bring you information about the credit card mafia in Chennai.
Right, my colleagues will bring you the latest on their respective stories soon, but let's take a quick look at the headlines. Caste-based census gets cabinet approval. Questions will appear in the 2011 census, but answering to be optional.
House-to-house enumeration of caste will be done during the period June 2011 to September 2011.
The Samudram issue heats up yet again. Karunanidhi alleges there are attempts to scuttle the project, asks the centre to ensure its completion. Is there a Lankan connection to the German bakery blast case in Pune? Prime accused names Colombo as training grounds for the LET. Major train tragedy averted between Coimbatore and E-Road. 4 men from Bihar arrested. Steep rise in organised frauds in the city. Cybercrime police crack down on those behind the great credit card robbery. Welcome to the new era of stock trading. Now you can buy and sell shares on your mobiles. So let's also take a quick look at the stories making national headlines. Professor T.J. Joseph begs to be taken back 2 days after he's sacked. College says no decision will be taken on compassionate grounds. As the centre prepares to lift the AF-SPA from some areas in Kashmir, political parties say more needs to be done to address the anger in the state. Land acquisition for development should not be at the cost of farmers, Sonia Gandhi says on the land acquisition controversy. Low-lying areas of Delhi on a flood alert, but the government says there is no threat to the Commonwealth Games village. And the Indo-Pak Express rushes on. Bopanna and Qureshi continue to make history at the US Open. They now through into the Grand Slam finals. Well, a top story: a day after the prime accused in the German bakery blast case, Mirza Himayat Beg, was arrested for his involvement in the blast. Disturbing newspaper reports in the UK have emerged of a possible Sri Lankan connection in the Pune blast case. Newspaper reports in the UK have emerged that Sri Lankans are in touch with the Indian authorities over claims by a Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist suspect that he was trained in Colombo to carry out terrorist attacks on Indian soil. Sources are saying that Mirza Himayat Beg has said that he has received training in Colombo and that Colombo is becoming a terror training hub for the LET. Well, our investigative reporter Sai Manish has been tracking that story. He now joins us for more on that story. Manish, how exactly is this Colombo link being traced in this case, and how is it that Colombo could increasingly become the training base for the LET?
Right, Ram. In fact, let's just tell you that Admiral Robert Willard, in fact, who's the commander of the US Asia Pacific Command, had way back in April this year suggested that the Lashkar-e-Taiba might be setting up base in Sri Lanka. At that point of time, of course, the reports were rubbished as a US propaganda. That was because there was a lot of pressure on Sri Lanka from the West owing to human rights violations in its war against the LTTE. Therefore, this was taken as yet again another propaganda by the West to defame the Mahinda Rajapakse government. Now, those fears which were expressed at that point by the US Admiral who was in charge of the entire Asia Pacific fleet have now, in fact, been substantiated by the man himself, by Riaz, the prime accused, in fact, of conducting the German bakery blasts in Pune. Now, he, during interrogation, has admitted that he himself was trained and trained quite well at that in Colombo, right there in Colombo, trained in the techniques that were imparted to none other than Ajmal Amir Kasab back in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Right. So, of course, the Colombo connection here was enunciated by the US because it has widespread intelligence network across the region, across the world, in fact. At that point of time, neither the Sri Lankan government nor the Indian government were too keen on these intelligent inputs. But now, the entire link emerging out of a Lashkar operative himself, Colombo certainly has been put on the map. Also, Ram, it makes a lot of sense for Lashkar. They've played it smart, of course, post the war with the LTT. 30 years of war has, of course, weared down the Sri Lankan army. Even the police, which patrols the cities, is now on a state of lesser alert. There are no more aerial attacks from the LTT because the LTT is a spent force, and especially after the death of Prabhakaran, it's been a death knell for the LTT, which has been sounded in Sri Lanka. Now, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, of course, is looking to take advantage of that lull, of that decline in the alertness of the police force, and therefore sneak in and establish bases, try to regroup in Sri Lanka. Number two, of course, is the fact that Indians as tourists are always welcome in Sri Lanka. It's very easy for an Indian to gain access to places in and around Sri Lanka. That's in contrast to other nations such as Pakistan and Bangladesh, which screen Indians quite a bit. So therefore, the Lashkar operatives find it quite easy to go under the guise of tourists and therefore regroup, channel Hawala transactions right in the capital of Sri Lanka, get the money, get the training. In fact, also the most shocking thing that's emerging here, Ram, is the kind of training that's been imparted to them in Colombo. That's what Indian investigators are looking to find out. Exactly where in Colombo have these people been trained in such a sophisticated manner that they can survive even urban combat for close to 72 and even more than that, more than 72 hours. That's what people like Kasab and 9 other people were trained in doing. So that's the similar kind of training Himayat has in fact got in Colombo. Ram?
Right, Manish, but also security agencies here in Tamil Nadu, specifically because of the geographic spot in which Sri Lanka is, because of the proximity to Tamil Nadu. Security agencies here in Tamil Nadu must be worried about this development, Manish.
That's right. It's just across the Park Straits now. Remember, Ram, when the war was on, the LTT war was on, you see so many camps around us. In Tamil Nadu itself, open camps, closed camps, a lot of LTT renegades along with refugees who come trickling in. So therefore, when the Lashkar-e-Toiba, somebody with the sophistication and the ideology such as the Lashkar establishes base in Sri Lanka, it becomes all the more difficult and a bigger headache for security agencies. Let's just tell you, it's just a few miles, the coastline from northern Sri Lanka. So therefore, Tamil Nadu is, security agencies in Tamil Nadu are going to be looking at the situation extremely closely, especially because the entire coastal stretch is also quite porous. Now, there have been repeated incursions by fishermen in fact, and therefore if you take that analogy, put it in the perspective of how the Mumbai attacks happened, you see a similar scenario emerging here as well if the Lashkar were to ever gain a foothold. Now, how did Amir Kasab and the 9 other people came? They hijacked a fishing trawler in the high seas, on the high seas. They killed the Indian fishermen, hijacked the Indian trawler so that they could not be intercepted, and made their way in the dark of the night into the city of Mumbai. Now, a similar situation here also arises. Every week you hear reports of Lankan fishermen being apprehended, of Indian fishermen straying into Lankan territory. That's how porous, that's how undefined the maritime boundary is. Clearly, a game reserve, quite a game reserve for the Lashkar-e-Toiba to exploit, and therefore the Tamil Nadu security agencies along with the central investigation agencies will go into a huddle to see how to stop the Lashkar from exploiting this particular weakness in India's security cordon. And of course, Tamil Nadu is going to be in the line of fire, so certainly a big headache for Tamil Nadu security agencies and the police force to stop any untoward incident from happening, especially with these shocking revelations now in the open.
Right, Manish, thanks a lot for that update on that story and the analysis. Moving on to the other top story, with the state assembly elections around the corner, political parties in the state are bringing up all issues they can to get people's attention. Just a week after the Union Minister for Shipping G.K. Vasan reacted to the Chief Minister's statements about superstitions hindering the Setu Samudram project, the Chief Minister yesterday said that Centre should look into the matter, alleging that some people were trying to scuttle the project. Chief Minister Karunanidhi yesterday requested the Centre to take it up and complete the project as early as possible. He also claimed that people were naming Lord Ram and trying to bury the project.
இதற்கு சேது சமுத்திர திட்டத்தினுடைய நிலை உச்ச நீதிமன்றத்திலே நிலுவையிலே இருக்கின்ற காரணத்தினால் அந்த நிலுவையின் அடிப்படையிலே வருகின்ற மாதங்களிலே ஏற்படுகின்ற தீர்ப்பின் அடிப்படையிலே சேது சமுத்திர திட்டம் விரைவாக நிறைவேற்றப்படும்.
சாத்திர சம்பிரதாயங்கள், மூட நம்பிக்கைகள் இவைகளின் காரணமாகத்தான் சில நேரங்களில் சேது போன்ற மக்களிட திட்டங்கள் எல்லாம் கிடப்பில் போடப்பட வேண்டிய நிலைமைக்கு ஆளாகின்றனர்.
Moving on, now more details are emerging in the great credit card robbery. Police investigation reveals that the two accused in the credit card fraud have booked flight tickets to the tune of 15 lakh rupees, making over 100 transactions with the card details stolen from the card holders. Shockingly, the police sources say these criminals have informers in various retail shops across the city, especially in textile shops. These informers used to note down the 3-digit card verification value numbers on the rear side of the credit card and pass on the information to these criminals, who in turn use the details to commit the offence. The police conducted a search today and confiscated 6 more cell phones from the accused. What's more, these 2 criminals have been rearrested in a separate case by the cybercrime police. A 5-member police team headed by Assistant Commissioner Tangaraj have launched a massive search operation to nab the absconding ICICI Bank official and the other offenders involved in this case.
This is a newer modus operandi in which the accused have managed to engage the employees of the shops to collect the details of the customers, and such collected details including the CVV number and date of expiry and the card number, which were used by the criminals for booking online air tickets. As this is the first time such a kind of crime is getting reported, it's a new modus operandi where the card itself is not stolen. The information of the card alone had been stolen and had been subjected for abuse.
Right, for more on that, we're now quickly joined by our crime reporter Salim for more on that story. Salim, clearly this is the first time such a crime is being reported simply because of the huge magnitude, the networking which they have, and the kind of fraud, of course, they are doing, that is the credit card fraud. Now, is this really challenging the police department here?
Ram, it is really challenging for the police department. When interacting with the Additional Commissioner of Police, Central Crime Branch in the City Police, Mr. Sudhakar very clearly said that it is easier for us to say to the media, but whereas it took almost 3 weeks for us to zero in on the criminal. We took the case a month ago, and after 3 weeks we zeroed on the criminal, and it is very difficult to nab them because the person need not be present to commit this crime, nor he took away the credit card. Instead, he took only the details from the credit card, and he was operating from various parts of the country, and it was very difficult for the police to zero in on the accused. However, technology helped them to zero in on the accused, and the police are quite shockingly looking at the case because they have seized 37 SIM cards from the accused, including 41 credit cards. Now they are in a state of shock. Now they say it is just a tip of the iceberg, and many more accused are yet to be arrested in this case. Ram?
Right, Salim, thanks a lot for joining us with that quick update on that story. Moving on, a major train tragedy was averted today when the police stopped 4 men who tried to place rocks on the tracks between Erode and Coimbatore. The 4 men now in custody after Bihar.
These rocks could have easily been instruments of death, endangering the lives of thousands of train passengers. All the 4 men arrested belong to Bihar, and the mischief they were trying to do could have led to the deaths and injuries to many passengers. Some of India's major long-distance passenger trains travel on this route, such as the Kerala Express, the Ernakulam Rajdhani Express, the eastbound Steel City Bokaro Express, and the farthest travelling train of them all, the Himsagar Express. As police investigate Maoist and terror links to the rail blast in Villupuram, the incident near Erode comes as a shocker.
4 பேர் நம்ம பகுதியில் வேலைக்கு கோழிப்பண்ணையில் பீகார் மாநிலத்தில் கோழிப்பண்ணைக்கு வேலை செய்வார்கள். அவர்கள் அந்த ரயில்வே தண்டவாளத்துக்கு எதுக்கு போறாங்க அப்படின்னு விசாரிக்கும் போது நாங்கள் காலை கடன் கழிப்பதற்காக அங்க நாங்க போறோம். போயிட்டு சின்ன கல் இதுக்கு முன்னாலே 2-3 தடவை கல்லுகளை வச்சு பார்த்தோம், சின்ன கல்லை வச்சு பார்த்தோம். அந்த ரயில் தண்டவாளம் ஏறி நசுங்கும் போது அது பவுடர் ஆகிறத பார்த்து எங்களுக்கு ஒரு சந்தோஷம். அதனால இந்த தடவை பெரிய கல்லை வச்சோம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க.
Fortunately for the police, one of its patrol parties stumbled on the mischief, or this act of reckless behavior could have resulted in a major accident. Bureau Report, Ndtv-Hindu.
Time to take a quick break. More news lined up on the other side. Stay with us. We'll be right back.